In this video, sponsored by the makers of Call of Dragons, we're gonna check out the new Cavalry heroes, and they look insane. I'm generally of the mindset that in the open field, Cavalry don't have a major role because ranged is dominant, but you'll see as we review the skills of these new Cavalry that they just might be tanky enough to get the job done, and with enough Cavalry grouped up together, this could be terrifying, but for small skirmishes, really no question that these guys are gonna be crazy. The Urag's active skill, 1000 rage. It has a near range, and it deals physical damage to the target, 1700 damage factor, and hits 2 nearby legions for 400 damage a pop. Now, this is the awakened version. I believe the unawakened version is 1600 damage factor, and then 300 damage factor a pop for the AoE, which seems really good. The next skill, we've got the Wolf Lord's Will. Urag's Legion takes 10% less damage when marching and deals 10% more damage in battle. That is amazing. So you could be marching and in battle at the same time, right? In which case, that's 20% of goodness. That is a very strong skill. From here, the third skill, all cavalry in Urag's Legion. Gain 10% march speed and 30% attack. I would like to see more march speed on this, be real with you, but it's still pretty dang good. Now, this is the hero that is likely to be the one, in fact, I think they said it comes from the wheel, so the lucky spins. And that means everybody's gonna have access to this thing. Get a look here. Here's some flail. Urag's Legion bypasses 10% of enemy hit points and increases rage accumulation speed by 10%. Nothing insane here, but you will notice that every single skill on this hero is relevant to the open. I like what I'm seeing here. Now, if we just get a quick look at this, wait, hold on, wait a minute. The active skill doesn't care about the troop type, okay? The second skill doesn't care about the troop type. Wait a minute. The third skill, okay, now we care about cavalry, but the fourth skill doesn't care about the troop type. Honestly, I kind of wonder if there is potentially not some kind of aggressive infantry thing that you could do with this, but I'd have to put more thought into it, all right? And we see here, as I mentioned, the awakening skill here, it works exactly as I described. Now, in terms of talent trees, we see cavalry, PvP, and skill. The powerful combination. Cavalry skill is probably where I'd be looking to operate, and skill is all about crits. So we'll see if there's some sort of crit damage, crit chance situation between the two of them. So far, it doesn't look like it, and at the end of the day, if your cavalry can't survive, then it doesn't really matter that they're there. Like, cavalry just tend to pop when they're in combat. Then we have the next hero, who also, I caught him for this screenshot with his eyes closed, is going to be making it so that you actually can survive. And this is kind of uncanny. 1600 damage factor, but 30% less damage from range for 5 seconds. That feels very powerful. So theoretically, you could have 50% of damagey goodness if you paired them together. By that, I mean, you take, what is it, 20%, or no, 10% less damage taken, 10% more damage dealt, and then 30% less damage taken over here. Now, granted, this only lasts for 5 seconds, and it's only range damage, but still pretty impressive. The next skill, when launching a rally, 50% chance to reduce all damage taken by Tobin's Legion by 20%, 5 seconds. This effect can be triggered once every 8 seconds. Now, the thing that's a little weird here, that I don't really know exactly how this works, is that if you rally something, if you have ranged units in the garrison, is it ranged damage? I'm not sure if it is. So I don't exactly know if ranged damage taken would work against marksmen in a garrison. Does it? I guess we'll find out. I could also reach out to VIP support. And this second skill, in some ways, is kind of tragic that it is the rally skill, because, you know, I think, didn't Sindrian also have this sort of flaw where one of his very first skills is rally related? The problem with that is that you can't do 5511 or 5551, which would, you know, be kind of ideal if you wanted to use him and not max him. We'll get a look at his awakening and see if we think it's worth getting here. But the way I like to think about a skill like this is obviously it's only relevant for rallying, but also when we peek at this thing, we say, okay, well, how much damage mitigation are we really expecting to get from this skill? And it can trigger once every 8 seconds, but realistically, it won't trigger on the first turn. So on the 9th second, it probably won't trigger. So if this triggers once every 8 seconds, and there's a 50% chance, so it's really like what you would expect it to trigger kind of like once every 9 seconds. We do some quick math here, right? We take the 20%, multiply by 5, divide by the 9 seconds over which is triggered. So you're looking at about 11.1% damage taken reduction. This is like napkin math, but like average overall damage taken reduction. Again, this is a rally situation. Next skill. All cavalry get 20% hit points and 10% physical attack. I mean, the HP is good. Physical attack bonus is good. From there, all piercing light deals 20% more rage skill damage to enemy legions in front of it. Okay. 10% more counterattack damage to all legions behind it. Kind of a cute skill. I don't think we have a paradigm for something like this in the game, where like the location of the enemy in front of you versus behind you is influencing the way the skill works. So it's kind of a cool thing that they're adding in. I'm on board for this. I mean, 20% more rage skill means that like, obviously you're pairing with Urag, right? Like, I don't know. Is there some other cavalry you're going to pair with here? You just want like maximum skill damage. Theoretically, I don't know, Theodore's really good, but he's for garrisoning. I have a suspicion that the two new cavalry just go together, and that's often the case with new units in the game, right? The Awakening. When another hero in Tobin's Legion deals damage with a rage skill, right? They deal 20% more damage. When targeting melee legions, they take 15% less damage for 5 seconds. So this is kind of neat. I'm still left wondering how this works in a rally garrison context. I don't have the answer offhand, like what qualifies as each type, and if both are in the garrison, do they just get the like full benefit of all of this? I mean, no matter how you slice it, when another hero in the Legion deals damage with a rage, they deal 20% more damage when targeting ranged legions, and they take 15% less damage for 5 seconds. I mean, the thing that's crazy here is that the combination of Tobin and also Urag is just incredibly tanky. I think that the two of them together are going to be a really powerful pair, and I do start to wonder about the validity, or the viability, I should say, of cavalry in the open field. I feel like this is what cavalry needed, tankiness. I think there could be a little bit more march speed in the combo, but between the two of them, they both seem very powerful. And in terms of the talents, cavalry, rally, and tank. I'd have to get a look at that tree to remind myself, but that could be pretty neat for the open field as well, potentially. There were also 2 artifacts that were teased in the recent developer video. The Terrible Howl. This seems really crazy. Unfortunately, we don't get to see the full text of the ability here, but skill damage factor of 4,400 with a tremble effect. I wonder if that's kind of like a stun, maybe? Locks you in place. The duration is 2 and jumps up to 3. I assume that's seconds because it's the duration. And there's also a continuous damage factor. Effect can be triggered once every 90 seconds. So I wonder if, you know, probably pair with one of the new heroes and you get that continuous damage maybe. There's probably some passive effect here. And then right over here, the Mana Stone Navigator. Now the developers, I believe, mentioned that this will be available in the regular keys. So if you've been hoarding your keys, good for you. And what does this do? After a short charge up, creates a Mana Stone at a random location near the Legion with a 5% chance of creating a legendary Mana Stone. This Mana Stone can only be gathered by the Legion that created it and will disappear after 10 minutes. What does the Mana Stone do? Does it heal you and nearby stuff? Does it make it so you do more damage? We know that during... are they called Mana Stones during Behemoth fights? That do the healing and the damage? I don't know. Maybe I'm misremembering, but I'll definitely be eager to kind of see what this does. I feel like my artifacts are already in a very good spot. I would have a hard time figuring out where to put this in the into the rotation, but we'll have to kind of see what it really is doing before we can make that assessment. It is also worth mentioning that in this upcoming update, your Wyvern Riders can now destroy buildings from a long distance. Only takes effect when your Legion is completely Wyvern Riders. And also the Forest Eagles, Eagle Strike. If there's no other friendly legions within a certain range of your Legion, deal 10% more damage. Only takes effect when your Legion is composed entirely of Forest Eagles. And by the way, they look freaking sick here at T5. All in all, I think this update looks pretty cool. There's a lot more to it that I suppose we could go over once the update has actually landed. So if that's what you want to see, consider subscribing. And I went over the entire patch note. I'll have a card right over here in the end screen. You can go check it out. Full video breaks down everything you need to know about this update, and that should be here, well, maybe even by the time you're watching this video.